Great news, Trump arrested the narco-terrorist that was running Venezuela, and as a result, he checkmated both China and Russia. As long as the United States continues to control Venezuela, China and Russia will never have the ability to become superpowers. Not in my lifetime. This is really exciting. I hope you enjoyed all this and more on today's episode of Peter's Local Perspective. What a lot of people have missed is that history didn't just happen. It was rewritten in a single weekend. While the world was nursing a New Year's hangover, the Dawn Road Doctrine went live. The capture of Nicolás Maduro isn't just about removing a dictator in South America. It's the first move in a global game of 4D chess that has Beijing and Moscow realizing they just lost the board. For years, we've been told that China's rise was inevitable and Russia's war machine was unstoppable, but they both had one Achilles heel: energy. By taking control of the world's largest oil reserves right in our own backyard, the US has effectively put its hand on the throat of every major rival we have. Most people think the conflict over Taiwan is about computer chips. It's not. It's about the lifeblood of an empire. In just a moment, I'm going to reveal the specific theory that explains why the fall of Caracas is actually the final nail in the coffin for any invasion of Taiwan. Once you see this connection, the entire plan for 2026 will finally make sense. Let's talk about China. Xi's great rejuvenation requires one thing above all: oil. China is the world's largest importer of oil, and for years they've used Venezuela as their private gas station in the West, pumping in billions of dollars to keep Maduro's regime on life support. But removing Maduro and installing a pro-US transition, we didn't just free a people, we seized the kill switch for the Chinese economy. Think about it. Between Venezuela and our allies in the Arab world, the increased pressure on Iran, the US now effectively controls 72% of China's oil supply. Well, when I say controls, in the sense that a lot of the oil was coming from Iran and Venezuela, which we've kind of dealt with those situations, and then all the other countries, like the Arab countries, all the other countries that are selling oil to China, almost all of them, they would stop selling oil to China if we told them to, because they're our allies. So 70%, 72% of all the oil that's been going to China is either under our control or we influence it. So that's huge right there. If China moves on Taiwan, the oil will stop flowing. It's that simple. Without Venezuelan crude and Middle Eastern cooperation, China's Navy doesn't leave the port. Their factories go dark in 90 days. Taking out Maduro didn't just stabilize the Americas. It made an invasion of Taiwan physically impossible. Xi is now looking at a future where he has to choose between Taiwan or having electricity. Now let's talk about why he wants Taiwan. Taiwan is the biggest manufacturer of chips in the world. And if you can control that and you can create your own chips, then you can win the AI race, which is the new nuclear race. So essentially, it's not really about the chips in Taiwan so much as about what you can do with those chips, which is become a superpower in AI. So if China can take Taiwan, it's game over. They have the most advanced chip making factories in the world. They will beat us in AI and be a superpower. But they can't go after Taiwan anymore. Nope. Now look at Moscow. Putin's ability to fight in Ukraine or even stay in power is tied directly to the price of a barrel of oil. Russia needs oil at a high price just to keep their economy from imploding. With the US now running the show in Venezuela, the goal is clear: flood the market. Venezuela sits on 303 billion barrels of oil, $17 trillion of oil, largely believed to be the biggest deposit of oil in the world. Under Maduro, that oil stayed in the ground or was sold on the black market to fund proxy wars. Now, American oil companies are moving in to rebuild that infrastructure. When we combine US record production with a revived free Venezuela, we're going to see cheap oil like the world hadn't seen in decades. And if oil drops significantly, Russia's finished. They can't pay their soldiers, they can't build tanks, they can't bribe their oligarchs. Cheap oil makes Russia too poor to fight Ukraine, too poor to threaten NATO, and too poor to even consider a confrontation with us. We aren't just winning a war, we're making the war unaffordable. But it's not just about the big two, China and Russia. The removal of the Maduro regime is a domino, knocks down a dozen other threats. Look at the benefits the world and American people gain from this. We're stopping the proxy war and the chemical attacks on our society via fentanyl trafficking by cutting the pipeline at the source. China's been attacking us literally with boats of fentanyl. What I'm saying is that Maduro wasn't sending boats of fentanyl to the United States just to make a quick buck. these were orders coming from China, as Venezuela was literally a puppet of China. And China's like, send these drug boats of fentanyl to the United States to kill Americans. These were weaponized attacks. This is called a proxy war, and this is called, I guess, biological attack or chemical attacks. I guess chemical attacks are more accurate. And they're not going to do that anymore. China can no longer use Venezuela as a puppet for its proxy war against the United States to attack us with fentanyl. They killed hundreds of thousands of people with fentanyl already. China has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans with fentanyl flowing into our country. So it is the truth. And we're cutting that pipeline at the source. That is huge right there. That is going to save hundreds of thousands of lives. We're ending election rigging worldwide and removing the Caracas model of authoritarianism once and for all. I don't know if you knew this, and I'll get a little bit more into this in the end, but allegedly Venezuela, huge hub for rigging elections worldwide, because the software from Smartmatic and Dominion machines, which are used to rig elections worldwide, guess what? Came from Venezuela. It's software. It's Venezuelan technologies, Venezuelan software. So I'll get into that towards the end, but we're also going to be able to stop the rigging elections worldwide by taking over Venezuela, which is huge. We're freeing the Venezuelan people and turning a refugee crisis into an economic miracle that will make Venezuela rich again. The whole Western Hemisphere just became 100% safer because we've removed the primary outposts for Russia, Iran, and China in the Americas. We're getting our land, our oil, and our assets back from a regime that stole them. Most importantly, we've removed the largest oil reserve in the world from the hands of our enemies and placed it back into the global market of freedom. A theory I want to leave you with is this. Trump's move on Maduro wasn't a forever war. It was a decapitation strike against the entire anti-American alliance. China's choked, Russia's broke, and for the first time in 30 years, there's no question who the dominant force on this planet is. The era of the U.S. playing defense is over. The era of peace through strength is back. And it's fueled by the very oil our enemies thought they could use against us. The board is set and the king is in check. So now I got into all like the basic stuff of what's happening. I got a little more of the complex stuff, what's happening. I did want to get into a little bit of theories that are floating around. Now, Benny Johnson has come out and said that Dominion and Smartmatic are Venezuelan companies, and he says that he has information from someone who directly talked to Maduro, and Maduro admitted that he's been rigging elections worldwide, topping regimes, taking over countries, or at least helping China do it, and put in China's puppets in countries across the world through Smartmatic and Dominion machines. Allegedly, Benny Johnson said someone who he knows talked to Maduro, and Maduro admitted this. Now let's fact check this a little bit, because I did fact check it. So, from my understanding, is that Smartmatic was just used in LA in the United States. Dominion's the one that is being used in like 30% of the voting stations in the United States. Smartmatic is the company that was built in Venezuela, and it's technically they're not run out of Venezuela now, but it's definitely a Venezuelan company and Venezuela software. And Smartmatic, which is a Venezuelan company, they created some technology which they sold to Dominion. I assuming it's the steel election technology, and Dominion and so Dominion is not a Venezuelan company, but they did acquire a significant portion of Venezuelan technology or software, whatever you want to call it. And so, in a sense, they're both Venezuelan companies in the sense that Smartmatic is a Venezuelan company and Dominion has connections with Smartmatic. The point is that if the theory is correct, and again, this is a theory, if all the election rigging, like 95% of election rigging worldwide, was coming from Smartmatic and Dominion machines, and a lot of that rigging was being done through Venezuela, it means that China can no longer use Venezuela as a puppet to rig elections worldwide to install Chinese puppets. Because that's basically what's been happening. China's been going around the world and using their money and influence and evilness to get all the leaders in the world to be super pro China, so he can invest in their country, which is really a takeover to steal resources and abuse of situations. Like, look at Gaza, Iran, and Venezuela. China was trying to take advantage of all those countries and their instability to take advantage of those resources. And China's like, nope, there's going to be peace in Gaza. Nope, we're going to nuke, we're going to take out the nukes in Iran. We're going to essentially neuter them. And no, we're not going to let Venezuela be your puppet, China. And now Iran can't hang out, Russia and China can't hang out in Venezuela and be like, oh, we're so close to the United States, we can attack, we can send, chemical attacks of fentanyl, we can do this and that, we can rig their elections and all that stuff. They can't do that from Venezuela anymore. Sorry. We've taken over that country. And when you see how bad it is, trust me, it needs to be taken over. And if you look at all the Venezuelans, I've not seen one upset Venezuelan, which is crazy. They're all like, we've been freed from Maduro. Anyway, very exciting stuff. Let me know what you think today. I didn't have Grok on today because I wanted to do an episode just myself. Did you like it? I hope you liked it. And I'd like to hear some feedback. Subscribe if you haven't already. A lot of my viewers are not subscribers yet. So subscribe if you want some very interesting political news every day. I always cover the biggest story of the day. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Peace out.